Marking the May 18th Gwangju democratization movement, President Yoon highlights the civilian sacrifice and calls for actions to protect democracy at home and abroad. Ahead of South Korea's planned inspection of Fukushima wastewater, Seoul and Tokyo's second round of talks on the scope of investigation activities ends with no agreement. President Yoon and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau marked 60 years of diplomatic ties with a summit in Seoul, agreeing to expand ties in security and natural resources. And what the two nations' foreign ministers had to say in Arirang TV's exclusive interview. Good afternoon. Today marks the 43rd anniversary of the May 18th Gwangju democratization movement, which commemorates the victims of a military crackdown in the southwestern city against civilian demonstrations calling for democracy. At the annual commemoration held at the May 18th National Cemetery in Gwangju, President Yoon highlighted what he called the May spirit, which stems from the city's sacrifice and dedication to establishing democracy. He said the spirit reflects the nation's constitution itself, and it calls for actions to protect democracy amid growing challenges both at home and abroad. This year's ceremony focused on mothers who lost family members to the military violence, and President Yoon laid a wreath with 10 of them. Also in attendance was the Speaker of the National Assembly, Kim Jin-pyo, along with leaders of South Korea's major parties. President Yoon and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau marked 60 years of diplomatic ties with a summit in Seoul, agreeing to expand ties in security and natural resources. Our presidential office correspondent Kim Do-yeon has the details.
South Korea and Canada vowed to expand cooperation on key areas as President Yoon hosted his Canadian counterpart Justin Trudeau for a summit on Wednesday. This is centered around 5 key areas: global order, security, economy and innovation, climate change, and culture. Security especially took a major step forward.
우리 두 정상은 작년 12월 양국 방산 군수 협력 양해 각서가 개정되고 올해 4월 양국 간 비밀 정보 공유의 범위를 방산 분야까지 확대하는 비밀 정보 보호 협정에 관한 협상이 개시된 것을 환영하고 양국 간 방산 협력 확대를 위한 지원을 계속해 나가기로 했습니다.
The two also penned a memorandum of understanding on exchanges for key natural resources and minerals. According to the joint statement, this MOU will further cooperation towards strengthening and securing supply chains for clean energy and critical minerals. This could be due to South Korea's strength in battery and automobile production and Canada's abundant natural resources.
For Canadians, it'll mean more investment, more trade, and more research and development in our country. Together, it'll mean benefiting our workers to develop clean and reliable solutions like next-generation electric vehicles to power our net zero future.
Another agreement was for the younger generations, as there will be more working holiday visas available for Koreans. President Yoon has always put South Korea's relationship with Canada as one of his priorities for diplomacy. In fact, they met multiple times in the past year of Yoon's term, and last September, Canada was the first country that President Yoon visited solely for a bilateral meeting when the two's relationship upgraded to a comprehensive strategic partnership. And this visit completes the exchange of visits between the two countries as they celebrate the 60th anniversary of the diplomatic ties. Yoon touched upon the long history as well.
이번 총리님의 방한 기회에 한국과 캐나다가 함께 피를 흘린 혈맹이라는 점이 다시 국민들께 알려지는, 그리고 우리가 이것을 다시 되새기고 잊지 않는 계기가 되기를 기대합니다. 자유, 인권, 법의 지배라는 보편적 가치에 기반한 양국의 전통적 우방 관계는 이제 미래지향적인 협력 관계로 도약하고 있습니다.
And with the growing uncertainties around the globe, including the war in Ukraine, they vow to work together.
But even as we celebrate that past, we must allow ourselves to be inspired and strengthened by the resolve shown in the past, because we are facing times of incredible challenge and complexity right now and into the future.
In the meantime, this summit kicks off President Yoon's busy week of diplomacy as he goes to Hiroshima to attend the G7 summit. This will be followed by visits from the German Chancellor as well as EU leaders next week. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Now we hear what foreign ministers of South Korea and Canada had to say for the two best friends moving forward in the decades to come in their exclusive interview with Arirang TV. Our foreign affairs correspondent Choi Min-jung has this one.
The best of friends. This is how South Korea and Canada describe their 6 decades-long friendship. The foreign ministers of the two countries, Park Jin and Melanie Joly, appeared together in a televised interview on Arirang TV on Wednesday, on the sidelines of Minister Joly's 3-day visit to Seoul. There, they underscored the nation's special relationship.
We are in a very special partnership, so based on this special relationship, we will move forward to prepare for another 60 years of common prosperity.
Canada and Korea have always been good friends, but now we're best of friends.
The chemistry between the two ministers also reflects how close South Korea and Canada are.
I surprised him by offering him an harmonica last time I was here a month ago, and to my own surprise, he started playing the Canadian national anthem. So it's good friends now, it's best of friends.
I think we have a great chemistry. We've been meeting 5 times so far, 6 including this interview, which means that in less than a year we are meeting in every 2 months.
The Canadian minister also said it was good news that South Korea will be taking part in the G7 summit in Hiroshima, which begins on Friday. She stressed that having South Korea at the table is significant, not only because it's good to have a best friend at the table, but fundamentally because of South Korea's contribution and investment in the world. On top of strengthening cooperation in the security and economic sectors, both ministers agreed to invest in the future of younger generations.
This time, Korea and Canada have agreed to increase the people-to-people exchange from 4,000 people per year to 3 times more, to 12,000. Which will provide an ample opportunities for young people on both sides.
Park said this would be worthwhile as it would allow young people to visit each other, learn from different cultures, and lay the foundation for a stronger partnership in the future. The ministers agreed to work very closely together to achieve common goals of contributing to freedom, peace, and stability in the world, and look forward with hope for the next 60 years. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
As South Korea prepares to send its delegation to inspect the Fukushima wastewater, Seoul and Tokyo held their second round of talks over the scope of the investigation activities, which once again ended with no tangible outcome. Our Kim Jung-sil has the details.
The second working level talks between South Korea and Japan were held online on Wednesday. Some of the details that couldn't be agreed at last week's first meeting were discussed again, only for the two sides to fail to reach an agreement. A South Korean foreign ministry official said both countries will continue communicating through diplomatic channels after reviewing Wednesday's meeting. South Korean media outlets have reported that it's possible the agreement couldn't be reached because Japan refused to disclose some key information. Last Friday, the South Korean government sent a detailed request to inspect some of the key facilities regarding the release of the Fukushima wastewater. Seoul's requests are aimed at looking into the entire process, from how it's kept, how it's purified, and the final release. But Japan has declined these requests, saying there needs to be further internal discussions. South Korean Prime Minister Han Duck-soo told reporters on Wednesday that it is the IAEA and Japan's job to inspect the wastewater on site and that South Korea will check their inspection process.
I believe it's most important to judge the rationality of what the IAEA is doing and what Japan is doing.
However, experts in South Korea are voicing concerns, saying the original inspection plan won't be conducted properly, as there won't be any wastewater samples and only limited access to facilities and information. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
The U.S. has confirmed that Washington is looking to have trilateral talks with South Korea and Japan on the sidelines of the G7 summit in Hiroshima. According to National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, speaking to reporters on board Air Force One en route to Japan, such a meeting is basically a matter of scheduling. He added that there is goodwill on all three parts to do it, particularly to recognize the real progress that has been made between South Korea and Japan with U.S. support. But he did mention nothing has been confirmed yet due to Biden's packed schedule. Officials in Seoul have previously said the three leaders will likely hold a trilateral meeting. The U.S. says North Korea's planned launch of its first military reconnaissance satellite violates UN sanctions and will face consequences from Washington. According to State Department Deputy Spokesperson Vedant Patel during a press briefing on Wednesday, the use of ballistic missile technology during the launching of the satellite will violate multiple UN Security Council resolutions. He added that the U.S. will make sure it takes necessary steps to hold North Korea accountable if the North does go ahead with the launch. The remarks come after the regime leader reportedly gave the go-ahead for the final preparations for the launch after his on-site inspections. South Korea is now less than a week away from the third launch of its homegrown space rocket, Nuri. The first flight was a partial success, reaching its target altitude but failing to put a dummy satellite into orbit. The second flight was a success. This time, Nuri takes on its first ever mission with real satellites on board. Here's more on the significance of the third launch. The third launch of the Nuri rocket will use the same rocket used in the first and second launches. The country's first ever homegrown spacecraft, Nuri, meaning world in Korean, is a three-stage rocket developed to put satellites into low orbit. The first and second stages are the boosters that help the rocket blast through the Earth's atmosphere. The third stage contains satellites and it will release them at the target altitude. And that is where we find the significance of this third launch. Previously, Nuri was topped with dummy satellites or a verification satellite, all meant to test the rocket's capabilities. But this time it will be carrying 8 satellites on actual scientific missions. That's why the third launch is dubbed the Nuri's landmark, first mission with first passengers on board. Next generation satellite, the second, is the main satellite among the 8. It operates on solar energy and needs a particular orbit to get the energy it needs. And the entire launch process is tailored for its transportation. First, the blast-off time. It is set for 6:24 p.m., unlike 4 p.m. in the previous launches. That's precisely calculated in order to put the main satellite into that orbit. This is why it is not an option to change the launch time like in the first launch. Any next attempt will have to come on the new date at the same time. Next, the target altitude. It is set at 550 kilometers, just high enough for the satellite to conduct its mission, unlike 700 kilometers, set for previous capacity test flights. This time, Nuri is also offering a better service. It's directly taking the passengers, the satellites, to their destinations. The main satellite will be separated first, then the rest every 20 seconds. All this will take 923 seconds. That's a lot shorter than the 2 weeks it took during the previous launch when the verification satellite carried the other satellites and released them. Lastly, this will mark a critical first step for South Korea's private-led space endeavors, with Hana Aerospace, which will be in charge of future launches of Nuri, on site for technology transfer. South Korea's Navy is training against future threats. Two of its main assets are the Aegis-class destroyer Sejong the Great and the domestically produced 3,000-ton class submarine Dosan Ahn Changho. Our defense correspondent Kim Hyun had an exclusive access to witness these vessels in action.
Just off the coast of Busan sails South Korea's Sejong the Great destroyer. The Aegis-class destroyer's crew are training, honing their ability to conduct anti-ballistic and anti-submarine activities. The ship's primary mission: to create a formidable shield against any potential threats from North Korea, especially its recently revealed submarine-launched ballistic missiles. In a rare opportunity, a group of defense reporters were allowed to observe the training. This Aegis-class destroyer, christened Sejong the Great, is considered one of Asia's most formidable warships. And what you see behind me is the ultimate powerhouse behind this vessel, the ship's vertical launching systems. This ship has 128 of them, known to have the most out of any other warship in the world. Another impressive feature of this ship is its state-of-the-art radar, capable of detecting any threats as far as 1,000 kilometers away. This cutting-edge feature also allows it to identify up to 1,000 targets all at once. In the skies above are the P-3 patrol plane and the Lynx helicopter, here to back up Sejong the Great on its mission. They're adding extra surveillance by dropping in sonar systems into the water to search for enemies. After setting up a mock target, the ship practices firing a vertically launched anti-submarine dummy missile underwater.
Sejong the Great maintains the highest level of combat readiness through intensive training that simulates real combat, preparing for various threats from the enemy.
At the port city of Jinhae, the South Korean Navy recently unveiled another formidable weapon, the 3,000-ton class submarine, the Dosan Ahn Changho. It was developed using South Korea's own technology, with the country joining an exclusive club of 8 nations with homegrown 3,000-ton class submarines. This powerhouse has upgraded stealth features, comes loaded with a versatile armament of torpedoes, sea mines, and guided missiles, and is powered through a high-tech fuel cell. The South Korean Navy relentlessly trains so it can effectively deploy these cutting-edge vessels to safeguard the future of South Korea's seas and skies. Kim Hyun-sung, Arirang News.
From delivery and transport to sports, all things that drones are now capable of can be seen at a special expo here in South Korea. Our business correspondent Shin Ha-young reports.
A drone that can fly and float on water can be used to transport cargo, water sports, and even help ships that have caught fire. A search and rescue drone that has a flashing light and provides a life belt and an emergency kit. Both can be seen at the Korea Drone and UAM Expo 2023, which kicked off on Wednesday in the city of Incheon in South Korea with its largest exhibition to date, offering visitors a glimpse of both the present and future of drones.
Under the theme of New Daily Life with Drones and Urban Air Mobility, the 4-day event showcases not only the cutting-edge technologies of drone industry in South Korea, but also the country's status as a leading nation in drone leader sports.
Around 200 players from home and abroad are participating in the World Drone Soccer Championship. Also, there are opportunities for younger generations to participate in the youth competition. On the other side of the exhibition, racers from 15 countries are competing in the 2023 Korea Drone Racing World Cup. The race takes place around an advanced racing course equipped with automatic detection devices and IoT technology developed in South Korea. According to the Transport Ministry, the global drone market is projected to surpass 125.5 trillion Korean won, or nearly $94 billion by 2030. In particular, sectors like transportation and logistics are expected to grow the most. Under the bright outlook, the government is working with local authorities to introduce drone delivery services to areas with poor delivery accessibility.
To commercialize drone delivery starting September, we will work together with local authorities to test drones in cities with a consideration of each city's geological features. We are planning to install flight paths in areas that have poor delivery accessibility, as well as drone stations in front of people's houses.
Meanwhile, during the event's opening ceremony, South Korea's Vice Minister of Land Infrastructure and Transport emphasized the importance of safety.
The government will support the technological development and demonstration of drone companies while also building a drone traffic management system by 2028 to ensure safety.
He added that it will improve regulations in line with the level of technological development to swiftly eliminate any barriers caused by unnecessary costs. 신하영, Arirang News.
Samsung Electronics ranked joint first in a U.S. customer satisfaction study of 5G phones, sharing the top spot with Apple. In a report released by the American Customer Satisfaction Index on Tuesday, the South Korean tech giant recorded 81 points out of 100 for 5G phones, the joint highest score. It also ranks second among phone manufacturers overall. The study was conducted between April last year and March this year, with more than 15,000 American participants.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. We begin with the Ukraine Black Sea grain deal, which has been extended for another 2 months. The extension was announced on Wednesday, just one day before it was due to expire. The deal allows Ukrainian ships transporting much-needed grain for the world to travel through a region of the Black Sea that's controlled by the Russian Navy. Russia initially seemed unwilling to agree to another extension due to sanctions by the West, which Moscow says are a barrier to its own shipments of fertilizer and food. The deal brokered by the UN and Turkey was made in August last year, initially lasting 3 months. It has already been extended once. It's now set to expire on July 18th. Turning over to Italy now, thousands of people have been evacuated from their homes amid deadly flooding and landslides in the northern region of Emilia-Romagna. At least 9 people have been killed in the disaster that was triggered by heavy rainfall on Tuesday. Some areas received half their annual rainfall in just 36 hours. 21 rivers are reported to have burst their banks, and 37 cities and towns have been affected. The flooding comes after a months-long drought hit the area, making land less capable of absorbing water. And according to Italy's Civil Protection Agency, worse may come, as rainfall is expected to continue. This weekend's Formula One at Imola has also been cancelled. Now, Prince Harry and his wife, Meghan Markle, allege that they were relentlessly pursued for 2 hours by paparazzi in New York. According to reports, the couple and Meghan's mother on Tuesday local time left an awards ceremony in an SUV when the chase started. They reportedly stopped at a police station until the situation calmed and left in a taxi. But they were still being followed and were forced to return to the station. They eventually got home in a limousine. According to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, the pursuit resulted in multiple near collisions with other vehicles and pedestrians. New York City police have confirmed that there was a transport incident involving the couple and numerous photographers. There were no reported collisions, injuries, or arrests. And finally, the wreck of the Titanic has been revealed in magnificent detail following its first ever full digital scan. Images of the sunken ocean liner were released on Wednesday by deep-sea mapping company Magellan Limited and Atlantic Productions. The ship was mapped using over 700,000 images captured by 2 submersibles over 6 weeks and includes shots of what remains of the Titanic's grand staircase and giant propellers. Hailed as unsinkable at the time of its launch, The Titanic lies 3,800 meters below the surface of the North Atlantic Ocean. It sank in 1912 after colliding with an iceberg. An estimated 1,500 people were killed. Matthew Ashley, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. It has been unbearably hot for the last few days with the strong sunshine and was hard to bear without an air conditioner on during the hottest parts of the day. Well, today's rain brings welcome relief from early scorching heat, and those in southern and eastern parts of the country, including Daegu and Gangneung, are having highs that are about 8 to 10 degrees lower than yesterday afternoon. Mountainous regions on Jeju will see downpours of more than 100 millimeters, and the south coast to see 10 to 40. Meanwhile, the rest of the country will receive spotty showers through tonight. Now, top ratings in Daegu and Gwangju are in the low 20s. Seoul and Chuncheon notice highs dropping just a few degrees and hovering in the mid-20s this afternoon. Decent air quality expected nationwide today. Rain on Jeju should let up around dawn tomorrow before letting up by the afternoon in the south coast. Sunshine and warmth should return to the capital area on Friday. That's Korea for you. Here's a look at the international weather conditions.
Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of the day.